Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about mutant class specifically, but much more so about class relationships, I guess. But anyways, why am I making this video? And please keep in mind that open mind is welcome. If you want to have constructive discussion, which is the entire point of this video, to engage into a constructive discussion, please do so. Do not start jumping to conclusions. Do not get overly aggressive. And also keep in mind that I am not trying to prove argument for one class's superiority over another, or somehow diminish the great things about one class in specific in today's video. It's much more about me trying to open a discussion on what actually matters and how do we decide what is better, what is stronger in this game. So, the reason why I'm making this video is because for quite a long time, and especially since the addition of Professor X and Apocalypse, and perhaps even more so with Strife, there is this kind of like public consensus around that Mutant class is the most beloved child of Kabam, and they are by far the strongest class, and they're getting the most love, and that it's pretty much non-negotiable at this point that mutants are far ahead of any other competition for the race of quote-unquote to be called the strongest class in the game currently. And now, keep in mind, I'm not saying they are not, or at the very least, I'm not saying that I don't think that they couldn't be. I think it could very well be possible. I do think they are towards the top of the game as a class. However, I did have a very interesting discussion about this subject exactly a couple days ago on one of my morning streams. And my arguments to counter the fact that Mutant class was the best is just quite simply that never you mind the aesthetics, never you mind the shiny numbers and how hype some champions are, I have not seen Mutant class dominate any single game mode. What do I mean by that? Now, quite conveniently, not too long ago, I for once, for example, did the AW offensive meta. So here is basically a cutout spreadsheet from that, and this is a total sum result of most of the season. I think I was missing one or two words in the season. Basically, every class champion that my team used and our opponents, and we can see that mutants are nowhere near quote unquote the most popular or slash powerful in Alliance War. In fact, they are in third place. Science is by far the more dominant overall in the Alliance War, followed by Mystic and then Mutant, and then in the back there is Tech and Skill and Cosmic, so on and so forth. So Mutant class as a whole is not the most important slash dominant class in Alliance War. Now, this is from a couple of seasons ago, and I was meant to do a refresh of this about the last season, but there had been a ton of things happening in my personal life, which I'm sure many of you are aware of. Therefore, I will do the same thing again, gather all the data for the upcoming season, but I do not expect mutants to somehow magically significantly dominate the Alliance War meta currently. At the very least, I have not noticed that. So let's take that out. Mutants are not the best in Alliance War, ultimately. Okay, so we have taken a look at Alliance War. Let's take a look at Alliance Quest. Again, this is from a video that I made not too long ago. I took a random sample because I was discussing whether this whole Mutant Alliance Quest season is working out, because mutants are the only class that is currently getting buffs. Well, basically mutants and X-Men, so there are technically some Cosmic Mystic champions, stuff like that. But in general, vast majority of the buffs affect exclusively mutants this season. And we can see that Mutant, in fact, is like the second worst used class in Alliance Quest. And that is despite the fact that they are having all of these extra buffs. So if they didn't have them, it is well within reason to assume that mutants would be used even less, and they could potentially be least used class in Alliance Quest. But okay, let's assume that the buffs are irrelevant. Let's assume that the buffs in Alliance Quest suck and they make no difference. Then still, at the very least, we are left with exactly the same results that we see in here. If the buffs don't matter, average class representation in Alliance Quest would be about 15 champions used here, because we have a total sample pool of 90 champions. A random day of my own alliance for every single battle group. You can see that we only have 9 mutant characters brought in total. Obviously, the Cosmic is a grand winner here because of Corvus Glaive and so on and so forth, but if you discount the Corvus Glaive, Science again wins here. If you don't want to discount the Corvus Glaive, fair enough. Cosmic is the first place, and Science is the second place, and Mutant is the 5th place. So still, AW goes to Science class, and Mutants are 3rd. AQ goes to Cosmic class, and Mutants are 5th. So 2nd to worst. Right. So what is that makes Mutant class that great? Why is Mutant class considered to be this powerful? Because we can take a look at variants, for instance. It's not like Mutants dominate all the variant content, right? Out of all the classes in the game, I would even make an argument that Mutant class is potentially the least relevant for all of the variant content. We have variant 1, where they are in chapter 1, and that is by far the easiest, therefore rank ups there do not matter too much. Then we have chapter 2, yes, Domino and Archangel and some mutants can put in work there, but really it is not considered any mutants variant as much as it is considered a variant for Obsidian, Venom the Duck, and a bunch of other extra large champions, which again, mutants can take part of that, but they're definitely not the dominating class in that variant. Variant 3 is Tech 1, so that's automatically mutants out of the window. Variant 4, it's all the classes. I don't think anybody can make a case that mutants are the most valuable class for variant 4. Variant 5 is Mystics and Spider-Verse champions, so mutants aren't even allowed in there. And variant 6 is Villains, and yes, Omega Red and Apocalypse does put in some work, but I think that variant, and Magneto as well, obviously, but I think that largely, again, the bigger kind of like heroes and cheese masters there have been like Venom and a bunch of other champions. But either way, we can kind of make an argument that mutants are up there for variant 6 with the villains, with Omega Red, with Magneto. Still, that is not by far the best, that is not dominating, that is barely keeping in touch. Now, obviously, what else is left there? We have quality difficulty event quests, where every quest is separated by class, and, well, that's fair, so we're not going to draw winners there. But Act 6, Act 7, yeah, mutants get used, but again, not overwhelmingly. I don't think I have seen anybody clear that content like exclusively with mutant teams, and even if there are some people who are just exclusively trying to get by with mutants, I do think that they are vast minority. Typically, you always go for your like Dr. Dooms and Claires and Nick Furies and Agons and Quakes and Ghosts and stuff like that. And yes, Omega Red or Colossus or Archangel Magneto get used in this content, but again, I don't think that it happens more often or more frequently than champions from other classes. So I don't think I have seen any domination from mutant class or any specific aspect in game at all where mutant class is leading, is Kabam's favorite child. It seems so, and that is also something that I wanted to talk about. Why does it seem that mutant class is so powerful when they don't really have all that much to back it up, at least in my personal opinion? Again, if you disagree, that is perfectly fine. I'm not trying to, pass judgment or diminish the viability of any champions. I'm just kind of thinking out loud and trying to encourage the discussion here. Right. So let's take a look at why it could possibly seem that mutant class is so powerful. Because, well, first of all, mutant class is second largest class currently in the game. We can see that Science has 30 champions, Skill has 32, Mutants coming in 36, and there's only second Cosmic class. But Cosmic has a lot of older champions that are significantly outdated, and Mutants have gotten, I think, more help in recent couple of years than, let's say, Cosmic class has. Therefore, I think that one of the things there is just definitely the sheer number game, that there is largest number of good champions in Mutant class proportional to any other class. And what do I mean by that is just the fact that you like Emma Frost and you think she's very good, or Havoc and Namor and Sunspot and whoever. There are a lot of very, very good champions. And purely numbers wise, there are more good mutant champions in the game than there are more good science, tech, cosmic, mystic, or skill champions in the game. I'm not arguing that at all. But is it the right way to judge the class just because they have a lot of good champions, but they're not making as much impact on the game? So we can jump here to the Aunt May, where we can see every single mutant currently in the game. And obviously, automatically, we see a lot of these champions that we do value extremely highly. There's Apocalypse, there's Archangel, Cable even now apparently is good, Colossus, Domino, Emma, Havoc, Iceman, Magnetos, both of them, Namor, Omega Red, Professor X. It's not hard at all to find good champions in Mutant class. So why aren't they dominating Alliance Quest? Why aren't they dominating Alliance War? Why aren't they by far the most used champions? Well, I personally think it because I think Mutant class at large is semi-centered around big numbers, big damage, prowess buffs, and shiny things, so to speak. And a lot other classes might not be as flashy, but are better at very, very core specifics. Like, I'm not trying to say that Mutant class champions have no utility. Hell no. There's a ton of utility. But what I am trying to make an argument for, that Mutant class might have a ton of utility, but they are not the very, very best at many things. Like, if you need a bleed champion, there are a ton of mutant champions that can inflict bleed, but you still ultimately go to, like, Nick Fury, probably. Like, if you need Nullify champion, that's obviously going to be Mystic class. If you need power control, yes, some mutants have power control, but you're not going here for power control. And that kind of leaves the question, what are you coming here for? If it's not buff control, it's not power control, if it's not specific damage over time effects for most part. And I think that is the answer why we do not see Mutant class dominate. I think it is much, much more valuable to have a champion that is best, the absolute best at something in the game, than it is to have many champions that are very good at specific things, but maybe not necessarily the optimal choice. Like, every other class have, like, very specific things you would go to when you need to counter something. I don't think Mutant class quite have a purpose for most part. I don't think they have a streamlined idea. We have a science class that, as we all know, works a lot around debuffs and utilities, such as, like, slows, powers things, and a bunch of other debuffs and things like that. That is kind of like science class arena. We have Void, we have Captain America Infinity War, a few other champions that can reverse the healing, reverse the power gain, and those are the kind of things that you kind of come to expect from science class. Then we have skill champions who are very good at purifying things, at bypassing evade, and accessing damage over time effects such as bleed and a few others. We have tech class, which we often go for immunities, which we go sometimes for armor buffs or power control or something. But again, there are very specific reasons we head here. We have cosmic class, who is kind of like ton of damage very quickly, bursty fights, quick, casual, very good questing champions. We have Cosmic Ghost Rider, Corvus, Captain Marvel movie version. And they have this kind of like quick, aggressive fight style, which is very good for like casual questing vanilla fights. Mystic class obviously quite often is power control, is buff control. But what exactly is it that you go to Mutant class for? I don't think there's much that immediately comes to mind as the big strength of a Mutant class. The first thing that comes to mind for mutants, obviously, I think, at least for me, is prowess buff. But in reality, prowess buff is a shitty discounted Fury, because it does exactly the same thing as Fury does, but it only does it during special attacks. So Fury's buff in general is just superior version of prowess. So what else is there for mutants? And again, obviously there are immunities, there are things that they do, but I don't think that as a class specifically there's anything that players find needing from them. They kind of do a lot, but nothing extremely well. And the best champions, the things that save mutant class, and the only champions that make sure that mutant class does get used right now, I think are like Magneto, Archangel, Omega Red, and Colossus. Those 4 champions, I think, at large are the ones that people actually go for. And why people go for these 4 champions in mutant class is because they are very good at very specific things. The metal, wonderful. Omega Red, immune to the passive damage back and very kind of like unique way of dealing damage. Archangel, one of the best damage over time champions. And obviously Colossus, ton of immunities and quite high attack. But when it comes to rest of the mutant class, what is exactly that you look for in it? What makes a good mutant? And I think that is where mutant class currently has a problem, where I actually think that might look as the greatest class, but I think comparatively mutants currently are one of the classes that are perhaps falling behind and underperforming. And them being one of the largest classes in the game right now also means that adding just more and more champions isn't quite really an option. So I do think that it's worth discussing at the very least. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying this opinion is perfect. I'm saying it's worth looking into it, because I do not for a second believe that it is quite as clear cut and dry mutants are this amazing. But that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and I'm not going to keep you guys any longer, so leave a comment, let me know what you think, and I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya! Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about